Who in China can sleep peacefully tonight? The richest men in the nation live in constant terror of the government. Ordinary workers wake up every morning wondering if they'll eat tonight. In just 4 short months, from April to July 2025, 5 of China's most successful billionaires jumped from the rooftops of their own corporate headquarters to their deaths. 39 CEOs have been secretly detained and tortured by state security forces. University professors who once commanded respect now earn a pathetic 8 yuan per teaching hour. China's Generation Z, fresh university graduates, have abandoned white-collar dreams to dig coal in dark, dangerous mines. Asus, the global PC giant, just announced they're moving 90% of their production lines out of China to factories in Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. Even government employees, once the most secure jobs in China, now hear their bosses say, "We guarantee you 3 months of salary. If we're lucky, maybe 6 months." Welcome to China Undercover. We tear away Beijing's carefully constructed facade of prosperity and growth, from the torture chambers where billionaires are broken to the empty classrooms of elite universities, from abandoned factories to desolate city streets. This is the real story of 1.4 billion people trapped in a collapsing system. This isn't just news. This is a cry for help from an entire nation. Let me take you inside the nightmare that's unfolding right now. On July 27, 2025, Wang Rui stood on the 18th floor observation deck of his Beijing headquarters. He was the chairman of Jiandi, China's largest scientific equipment manufacturer. Moments later, he jumped to his death. This tragedy came just 4 days after Wang Rui was released from secret government detention. But the man who walked out of that black site was no longer Wang Rui. Witnesses in Wuhan described him as a walking corpse. His body was emaciated, skin hanging off his bones. His internal organs had been damaged from relentless beatings. He shuffled down the street like a zombie, barely able to speak. What turned this billionaire into a broken shell of a man? In 2023, Wang Rui successfully withdrew 2.67 billion yuan by selling 61.93% of Jiandi's shares. Local Wuhan government officials became insanely jealous of his wealth. They demanded he hand over his stocks and assets to state-owned enterprises. When Wang refused to give up what he'd rightfully earned, they arrested him. What followed was months of systematic torture designed to break his will. Finally, they released the shell of a man who used to be China's equipment industry king. 4 days later, he chose death over returning to that hell. Just 10 days before Wang Rui's suicide, another tragedy unfolded. Zhang Zongxian, founder of Langkai in Gongshu province, also jumped from his office building. His company declared bankruptcy within hours of his death. The same week saw CEOs Humi Longbing and Shuhai Liu dragged away by security forces. This isn't random bad luck. This is a systematic purge of China's most successful entrepreneurs. The weapon they're using is called liuji, secret detention without trial. It replaced the old shuangui system in 2018. Originally designed for corrupt officials, it's now aimed at billionaires. A human rights lawyer now living in America revealed the horrifying details. They lock victims in secret locations where no lawyers or family can reach them. The torture methods are medieval. They place a bowl of water on your head. If one drop spills, they beat you mercilessly. They insert needles under your fingernails. They use hand-cranked generators to deliver electric shocks through your body. Blinding lights shine in your face 24 hours a day. They lock you in freezer rooms at -3 degrees Celsius with no food. In 2018, businessman Fu Pin died after just 1 month in Liuji detention. His family received a body covered in torture wounds. They wanted to sue, but all evidence disappeared. Every news report was scrubbed from the internet. The statistics are beyond comprehension. From January to September 2025, 39 top corporate executives were disappeared into this system. That's one arrest every single week, a 65% increase over the previous year. Peng Fajian learned this lesson the hard way. Chairman of Yaofa, a cutting-edge military chip manufacturer. In the first half of 2025, his company reported sales up 73% year over year. Profits exploded 107% to 62 million yuan. The company serves China's most sensitive military clients: China Electronics Group, China Aerospace Science Group, Chinese Academy of Sciences. On September 21st, Peng sold company shares for 450 million yuan profit. Hours later, state security arrested him without warning. Xin Shijia faced an even more public humiliation. Chairman of Banca, one of China's largest real estate developers, drowning in 48 billion yuan of debt. On September 18, 2025, during an important board meeting, police burst into the room. They dragged Xin Shijia away in front of his stunned executives. Less than a month later, Banca announced, Chairman Xin resigned for personal reasons. No one believed that lie for a second. Then there's Mr. Jing, the furniture industry billionaire who built an empire from nothing. Dozens of subsidiaries, billions in registered capital, thousands of employees across China. He bragged, in every city, my company is number 1 or number 2. But that success became his curse. During the pandemic, while competitors collapsed, Jing's empire thrived. He accumulated billions in cash reserves. Local governments saw him as their personal ATM. They forced him to buy worthless state land projects. Beautify our city, they demanded. When Jing refused, citing the massive risks, they threatened him. Buy it or else. He reluctantly invested billions. The moment the deals closed, the government changed the rules. They froze all his permits, halted every development plan, then demanded hundreds of millions more in additional fees. Jing sued from local courts to provincial courts. Every case was dismissed. The government weaponized housing bonds next. Instead of cash, citizens bought homes with government IOUs. Jing's companies ended up holding mountains of worthless paper. Desperate, he traveled to the provincial capital, then Beijing. Everywhere he got empty promises and more demands for cash. Finally, in January 2025, the police summoned him. 3 straight days of interrogation, sleep deprivation, forced confessions. A police officer screamed at him, "Why won't you pay? The leaders say pay. So you pay." Jing responded, "If I pay everything you demand, my company goes bankrupt." They didn't care. Broken and hunted, Jing fled to Shanghai, then boarded a flight to America. The government seized his entire 2 billion yuan cash reserve. They issued an international warrant for his arrest. Mr. Jing's story isn't unique. In just the first half of 2025, at least 39 entrepreneurs vanished on vague charges. In August alone, 5 major corporate executives disappeared in just a few days. Panic has spread through China's entire business community. No one knows who will be targeted next. Now let's examine what's happening to China's intellectual elite. University professors who once enjoyed comfortable middle-class lives are collapsing under the weight of the economic crisis. Teacher Liu from Shandong province paints a devastating picture. Before COVID, we earned 50 yuan per teaching hour, sometimes 30, sometimes 50. Now it's just 8 yuan per hour. That's less than $1. Year-end teaching bonuses that used to arrive every December? Completely gone. Research funding for graduate students? Slashed to nothing. Liu says, "Everyone lives in constant terror. We got paid this month. Will we get paid next month? No one knows." University salaries used to have 4 components: basic salary plus performance bonuses plus hourly teaching fees plus research grants. Now there's only one: basic salary. And even that's shrinking. Liu explains the research funding crisis. National-level grants used to be 1 million yuan per project. Provincial grants were 200,000 yuan. City grants, 500,000 yuan. Now it's impossible to win any of them. Professors pay research costs from their own pockets. In 2023, Jiangsu province professors saw year-end bonuses slashed 40%. Some research bonuses dropped nearly 50%. By 2024, universities began merging departments to cut costs. All staff benefits eliminated. Teacher Wang reveals the ugly truth about campus corruption. When money runs out, they cut graduate student funding first. Then they come for the professors. Young academics are committing suicide non-stop. The numbers confirm her fears. Caixin reports 7 young university professors died in 2025 alone. A 41-year-old vice professor in Guangdong jumped from a campus building. A 35-year-old PhD advisor at a Zhejiang university took his own life. China's universities now operate under a brutal elimination system. PhD graduates who fail competency tests get demoted. From respected academics to university security guards sweeping floors. Wang warns, the survival pressure is unbearable. Internal competition has become savage. Living in Chinese society gets more difficult every single day. Now, let's descend even deeper into China's economic apocalypse. While billionaires jump from skyscrapers and professors sweep floors, China's youngest generation faces the most brutal reality of all. A 23-year-old born in 2002 posts on social media, "I'm digging coal every day." A 21-year-old born in 2004 responds, "Me too, every single day." Then she asks China's Gen Z girls, "What are you all doing for work? Those fancy internet jobs you post about, what are they really?" This isn't hyperbole. This is China's future. University graduates trading laptops for pickaxes. White-collar dreams buried under tons of coal dust. The trigger? Global companies fleeing China en masse. Asus, the world's PC giant, just announced they're moving 90% of their motherboard and computer production lines out of mainland China. Destination? Factories in Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Even their server production lines moved to America last year. This single decision wipes out thousands of jobs that supported entire Chinese families. And Asus isn't alone. Nikkei Asia reports Microsoft plans to shift most Surface laptop production outside China starting 2026. 10 years ago, Vietnamese workers flooded into China chasing factory jobs. Now Chinese workers flood out to Vietnam chasing the same opportunities. Factory bosses are vanishing too. One mold factory owner shows his warehouse, 3,000 to 4,000 mold sets gathering dust. Each mold costs 400,000 to 500,000 yuan. Half of them haven't had a single order in over a year, he says. He took customer deposits in May. Now it's October, no deliveries. He's fled with the money. South China factory owners are doing the same. Collect deposits, disappear, leave workers and customers empty-handed. The human toll is devastating. I met a boy from a rural family who got lucky. Through campus recruitment, he landed a job at an American company in Zhengzhou. When local wages paid 700 to 800 yuan monthly, he earned 5,000 yuan basic salary. When average wages hit 1,000 to 2,000 yuan, he made over 20,000 yuan monthly. Why? His company was an industry leader. No cold calling, no begging for sales. Customers came to him. He just organized academic forums. The hidden perks? Company trips to France, England, or at worst, developed Asian countries. Money plus world-class experience. Compare that to what's available now. A college graduate in Suzhou brags about his job. 200-400 yuan per day. Monthly take-home after rent, utilities, and food? Barely 100 yuan. Another girl waited 90 minutes for a 3,200 yuan monthly job interview. 3 people ahead of her. all desperate for the same miserable wage. Beijing job market, 5,000 yuan salary. After mandatory insurance deductions, 4,000 yuan left. Not enough for rent, let alone food. Kindergarten teachers, once called iron rice bowls, now stand at life's crossroads. Hundreds of kindergartens closed this year. Teachers unemployed, anxious, lost. One industrial park tells the story perfectly. This street used to be gridlocked at 5:55 p.m. Every ethnicity in China worked here. Now, at quitting time, it's a ghost town. People say the economy isn't bad, one worker says. I just look at this street. That tells me everything. Even the nightlife economy collapsed. Billiards halls turned into disguised prostitution rings. Pretty teaching assistants wear revealing clothes. Dimly lit private rooms, single men as primary targets. They charge by the hour, much cheaper than KTV. Social media lures naive girls. Earn tens of thousands monthly playing billiards. The result? Young people chase quick money. No one pursues science or research anymore. Campus recruitment fairs tell the truth. Entry-level e-commerce jobs, 2 months training, 1 month no pay, then 2,800 yuan. Factory jobs dominate every booth. 2 shifts, brutal conditions, 2,000 to 3,000 yuan monthly. One girl cries, "My di xian keeps dropping." In university, she wouldn't touch 3,000 yuan jobs. Fresh out of school, 4,000 yuan was her minimum. Now, any job, any salary, just to survive. It's 2:12 a.m., day 145 of unemployment. She lies in bed, sleepless. Hundreds of resumes sent. 0 responses. Even worse, even civil servants aren't safe anymore. Government workers, the last secure jobs in China, now face salary catastrophe. Across China, 31 out of 31 provinces run budget deficits, first time in 70 years of communist rule. Until 2020, only 6 provinces had surpluses: Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Tianjin. Guangdong alone carried trillions in surplus. 2021, all 6 went to 0. Guangdong stopped publishing data. 2022, every single province in deficit. Even Shanghai posted an 18 billion yuan deficit. China's government employs 80 million civil servants plus 40 million state workers. Add retirees, 90 million people fed by government salaries. When local budgets collapse, who eats? Qingdao government workers whisper, "Last year we promised 6 to 8 months salary. This year, guarantee 3 months, fight for 6. One civil servant shows her pay slip. July, 3,000 yuan. August, 2,000 yuan. Now, 1,800 yuan. Where's the bottom? She asks. State-owned enterprises fare worse. One worker, 2 months no salary, even central SOEs. Another from a Qingdao agency. Local debt crisis. Some colleagues haven't been paid in months. The cuts hit daily life hard. Office drinking water? Buy your own. Toilet paper? Self-funded. Even pens require self-purchase suggestions. Energy audits turn draconian. Color printing? Must justify in writing. Forget to turn off AC. Full office shaming. Central AC shuts off automatically. Weekends? No AC for overtime. Duty shifts slashed from nightly to holidays only. Attendance tracking. Military precision. One worker traded her car for an e-scooter. Monthly fuel was 600 to 700 yuan. Now I save every penny. China's total government debt hit 92.6 trillion yuan by end of 2024. That's 34.6 trillion in national bonds, 47.5 trillion local statutory debt, 10.5 trillion allowed local debt. Debt to GDP ratio, 68.7%. Young people online scream, "Let's go to war, blow it all up and start over." Asteroids hit Earth, End this nightmare. 20 years ago, fresh graduates demanded 5,000 yuan starting salaries. Today, 20 years later, bachelor's degrees start at 5,000 yuan, sometimes less. House prices? 10,000 per square meter then, 15,000 now in Shanghai. A front desk job in Guangzhou, 4,500 yuan after probation. Deductions, 780 yuan insurance. Take home, 3,200 yuan. But she does front desk plus HR plus administration. 3 jobs, 1 miserable salary. Even duck farming barely breaks even now. This economy is terrifying, one farmer says. The disconnect between official statistics and reality couldn't be clearer. Experts claim 5% GDP growth. People are getting richer. Reality: 70% of Chinese families can't produce 100,000 yuan cash. Many can't even scrape together 50,000 yuan. 10% carry massive debts. Families leave one person home. The rest scatter seeking survival. Stay home? Starve. Airport coffee? No 9.9 yuan deals anymore. Full price only. People walk away thirsty. One man sums it up. I used to feel vaguely poor. Now I truly understand 4 characters. Bu Jian Dang Nian. Not what I expected from my youth. From billionaire torture chambers to coal-dusted Gen Z faces. From elite professors sweeping floors to civil servants buying their own pens. From gleaming ASUS factories to rusting mold graveyards. This is China's true state in late 2025. Beijing's iron-fisted control couldn't save their economy. Their debt mountain grows daily. Their people break in silence. 90 million government workers once thought they were safe. Now they count days until the next paycheck might not come. 39 billionaires learned wealth means nothing when the state wants it. University campuses that train China's future now produce security guards. And Generation Z? They trade university diplomas for coal shovels. Is this collapse or just the beginning? China's empire of dust continues to crumble. Thanks for watching China Undercover. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more truth. Share this if you see the reality too.
We are about to enter this so-called city of the future, Xiong'an New Area. Many Chinese people have heard this name, but almost no one has ever truly set foot here. I just arrived, and what I saw shocked me. This city was built from scratch in 2017, handpicked by Xi Jinping himself as a national project of the century. It was supposed to be China's next Shenzhen or Shanghai, a symbol of progress, technology, and power. But when you walk its streets today, it feels more like the set of a post-apocalyptic movie. Look around. This should be the Sofitel Hotel, yet the roads are empty. No honking, no crowds, not even parked cars. Everything feels too perfect, too clean, too quiet, almost eerie. The buildings rise tall and modern, but the people are missing. The silence echoes through wide boulevards designed for millions. Yet only a handful walk these streets. They say Xiong'an follows international standards with Chinese characteristics. But the reality? A lifeless grid of offices, government buildings, and unfinished projects. Since 2017, over 835.4 billion yuan has been poured into this dream, enough to build 3 New Yorks. Yet all that stands is a futuristic ghost city, frozen in time, waiting for residents who never came. When night falls, the emptiness becomes haunting. Entire neighborhoods go dark, rows of brand new apartments without a single light on. The few locals say the old town of Rongcheng still has more life than this new area. Around 80 to 90% of the shops are closed. Streets are empty even on weekends. At 4 p.m. on a Saturday, I arrived at Xiong'an Railway Station, one of the largest in northern China. It's a massive, gleaming structure that could rival any major international hub. Yet I saw only one traveler, a man with a small backpack. The ticket counter was silent, the clerk staring blankly into the void. Outside, traffic lights changed automatically, but there was no one to cross the street. By 6 p.m., every shop nearby had already closed. During the day, only a few elderly people wander around. The only lively place is the Xiong'an outlets. The rest of the city feels abandoned. The government buildings stand tall but eerily silent. Inside the service center, escalators don't move, and the echo of footsteps bounces off the walls. Many locals say they were promised a better life, but after their farmland was taken for this grand vision, they lost everything. No land, no factories, no business. "I can't even make 6 yuan a day," one resident said. "Not enough to eat." Those who had their homes demolished receive new apartments they can't sell, and rent barely reaches 1,000 yuan a month. Some are still completely vacant. At night, the silence is suffocating. After 8 p.m., there are almost no cars. Even opening a grocery store here is hopeless. You can get 6 to 12 months free rent. But what's the point when there's no one to rent to? One man joked, "If a monkey runs by, everyone gets excited. At least it's something alive." Drone footage on Weibo shows endless rows of identical apartment blocks, all dark, like lifeless models. Xiong'an Station, once promoted as the heart of China's next innovation hub, has now become one of the quietest train stations in the entire country. And it's not just Xiong'an. Across China, the same story repeats. Zhuhai's Hengqin Island, Tianfu New Area in Chengdu, Ordos in Inner Mongolia, all built with billions, now standing empty. Hengqin was once called the next Macau, but its skyscrapers now echo with silence. Banks have no customers, luxury towers have no tenants, and the roads have no cars. Xi Jinping once envisioned a future of glittering megaprojects, but what remains are endless ghost cities and broken promises. From the 10 trillion yuan semiconductor dream to the Belt and Road Initiative, the Beijing Stock Exchange, and Made in China 2025, nearly every grand plan has turned into another monument of failure. These cities were supposed to be symbols of China's rise. Instead, they have become graveyards of ambition, silent witnesses to a collapsing dream. Commentators say this emptiness reflects a nationwide crisis. If even top-tier development zones like Hengqin and Xiong'an, backed directly by the central government, cannot attract people, what hope is there for others? Since Xi Jinping took office, massive projects like the Xiong'an New Area, the Hainan Free Trade Port, and the Hengqin Development Zone have all spiraled into chaos. Critics like Yuan Hongbing and Li Yuan argue that under Xi's dictatorship, the Communist Party itself has become the largest unfinished project, a collapsing empire built on illusions. Across China, hundreds of new areas, innovation cities, and smart zones lie abandoned. The country is littered with ghost highways, ghost airports, and ghost towers, built for a future that never arrived. Cities like Ordos, Kunming Chenggang, Tianfu New Area, and Hengqin once glowed in propaganda videos as symbols of China's miracle. Today they are silent wastelands of steel and concrete. Billions were spent on futuristic skylines, yet all that remains are dark apartments, empty shopping malls, and broken dreams. The collapse of China's real estate empires has only deepened the nightmare. Giants like Evergrande, Country Garden, Sunac, and Vanke, once praised as engines of growth, are now drowning in debt. Their unfinished towers rise like tombstones over bankrupt cities. Millions of homebuyers are trapped in half-built apartments, paying mortgages for homes that will never be completed. In some areas, desperate residents hang banners reading, "Deliver our homes." But developers have disappeared and local governments pretend not to see. Even smaller developers have fallen like dominoes. From Guangzhou, RNF, to Shimao, Fantasia, and CIFI, one after another declared bankruptcy, leaving entire neighborhoods half-constructed and lifeless. Workers went unpaid, suppliers went bankrupt, and entire supply chains froze. China's property sector, which once made up nearly 30% of GDP, has turned into a black hole, sucking the economy deeper into crisis. Behind the glittering slogans of high-quality development lies a grim reality. The nation is running out of money. Local governments are drowning in hidden debt exceeding 100 trillion yuan, while banks face mounting bad loans and shrinking deposits. Layoffs spread across construction, manufacturing, and finance. Even China's largest cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, are showing signs of stagnation. Businesses are closing, young people are fleeing, and despair is spreading across the country. Experts warn that 2025 could mark the turning point, the year China's economic engine finally stalls. The real estate bubble that sustained the illusion of prosperity has burst, and with it, the foundation of the entire system is crumbling. Ghost cities are no longer isolated accidents. They are becoming the new face of China. From north to south, east to west, entire districts stand silent, unfinished, abandoned. Xi Jinping may dream of national rejuvenation, but the reality unfolding before him is a landscape of ruins. The party's grand projects, its slogans, and its promises are all collapsing under the weight of corruption, arrogance, and fear. As one Chinese scholar said bitterly, Xi wants to save the party, but in the end, he will only walk with it into the grave. Today, the bank finally auctioned off my home. 10 years of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights gone with a single hammer strike. I was once a proud businessman. A few years ago, I took out millions in loans to buy a luxurious riverside apartment, a symbol of success, or so I thought. But since last June, my company began collapsing. I couldn't even afford my monthly mortgage of 12,000 yuan. From the very first missed payment, the bank started haunting me. Endless calls, relentless demands, threats of foreclosure. People talk about the Chinese dream, but for homeowners like me, it's a nightmare. I earn about 6,000 yuan a month. After paying the mortgage, I'm left with 2,000 yuan, barely enough to survive. I've stopped eating out, quit meeting friends, and haven't bought a single new outfit in years. Most days, I bring cold leftovers to work. On the worst days, I survive on instant noodles. This home that once symbolized success has turned into a 30-year shackle. Every day, I wake up asking myself, is this life worth it? A few years ago, property in China's major cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, was seen as untouchable. Prices soared and people believed they could never fall. But now that illusion has collapsed. In the past 2 years, housing prices and transactions have plummeted across China's biggest cities. In August alone, new residential sales in Shanghai dropped 27% month-on-month and 45% year-on-year, the sharpest fall in the country. The Magic City has turned into a symbol of loss. With mass layoffs and rising unemployment, countless homeowners are desperately trying to sell, but no one's buying. Some experts warn prices could fall another 50%. In truth, they've already fallen 35% from their peak. One homeowner shared his heartbreak. A young couple once offered him 11.3 million yuan for his apartment, but he refused, insisting on 11.5 million. Today, it's worth just 8 million. In 1 year, he had lost over 3 million yuan in all his savings. Another story from Hangzhou echoes the same pain. A man bought a home for 3 million yuan, 900,000 down, 2.1 million loan. Monthly payments, 12,000 yuan. He dreamed of a stable life with his wife, but after being laid off, everything fell apart. He sighed, what's the point of saving every penny? You are born with nothing and die with nothing. I've spent my whole life working for the bank. He's already paid 300,000 yuan. but 260,000 of it was just interest. When he and his wife first saw their new home, they were filled with joy, imagining how they decorate it. A few short years later, that dream home is gone, sold to someone else. Do you understand how that feels? He asked. I bought my house for 3 million yuan. Now it's worth 1.4 million. I've lost my down payment. I still owe the bank, and every night I can't sleep. When I walk down the street, it feels like I've lost my soul. This is the reality behind China's collapsing housing market. Tens of millions once believed owning a home meant stability. Now it means debt, regret, and despair. The so-called Chinese dream has turned into a 30-year mortgage trap, and for many, it's already too late to wake up. I bought my dream home in Shanghai, now it's worth half. My life savings are gone. He once proudly shared a video online, a video that broke millions of hearts across China. In it, he revealed that his home's value had dropped by half of his down payment. Within hours, thousands of netizens commented, "Same here." In Shanghai, properties like his have fallen by at least 1 million yuan in value. He later discovered that his upstairs neighbor had bought an identical apartment, same floor plan, same size, for less than 2 million yuan. The gap between the listing price and the actual sale price? Over 1 million yuan. He forced a smile and said quietly, "To say I'm not heartbroken would be a lie." In 2023, he and his wife thought they were turning a new page in life. Buying a home in Shanghai felt like a dream come true. But within a year, that dream turned into a nightmare of disappearing assets and mounting debt. Some tried to comfort him. As long as you don't sell, you haven't lost money. He laughed bitterly. That's just lying to yourself. The market decides your fate, not your hope. Others urged him to sell and cut his losses. But who would buy now? The real estate market was frozen. No one wanted to catch a falling knife. Although the home was for their own use, every time he saw the price drop, it felt like a piece of his soul was being hollowed out. He and his wife came from poor rural families. No background, no powerful relatives, just two people fighting to build a better life in the city. But now they were drowning in debt. They didn't even own a car. Every day, they rode an old electric bike through the crowded streets of Shanghai, saving every yuan they could. He said, "Every time I deposit money into my bank account, it's gone in seconds, swallowed by debt. I wake up every morning thinking, how do I save more? How do I pay it all back? How do I make my kids' future better?" At night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if one day he might break. Still, amidst the pain, there was light. "Only parents can give their children a bright future," his wife said softly. "We started with nothing and ended up with debt. But when I see our children healthy and my husband still fighting, I realize real wealth isn't money, it's family." For a brief moment, he smiled. Life somehow still had sweetness. In Chuzhou, Anhui province, their story continued. They still owned an unfinished apartment there, one that's been sitting unsold for over a year, collecting dust. No one wants to buy it. Her husband keeps working tirelessly to feed the family, while she stays home to care for their two children. They live frugally, cutting every possible expense, believing that as long as they stay united, things will eventually improve. But the market tells a cruel truth. In just 3 years, housing prices there have fallen by nearly 2/3. Once labeled premium school district housing, prices once soared to 100,000 yuan per square meter. Today, they've collapsed to less than 40,000 yuan. He gave a bitter laugh. "How ironic," he said. "We were told to buy early or be left behind. Turns out, buying early destroyed us." Another blogger shared his own heartbreak. "I bought one home for 1.6 million yuan. Now it's worth 600,000. Another for 2 million. Now it can barely sell for 800,000 or 900,000. I've lost over 1 million yuan on each one." He sighed. "Those who didn't buy a home back then are the winners now. Those of us who worked, saved, and borrowed, we've become the laughingstock of China's housing collapse." Once, owning a home in China was the ultimate dream, the symbol of success. Now it's the heaviest burden a generation has ever carried. The dream didn't just collapse, it crushed the people who believed in it. Shanghai's housing market, wholly in homes no one can afford or escape from. The unthinkable is happening in Shanghai, a city once called China's most unshakable real estate fortress. If prices keep falling at this pace, countless families will be trapped, not because they can't buy a home, but because they can't sell the one they already own. As of June, the number of secondhand homes listed for sale has soared past 200,000, an all-time record. The market is flooded, but no one's buying. Buyers now treat every viewing like a battlefield, bargaining as if their lives depend on it. A popular blogger recently revealed that his friend bought a home in Putuo district for 3 million yuan in 2019. Now, he's lucky to sell it for 1.9 million yuan. Honestly, the blogger sighed. That's already considered a good deal. In Shanghai today, the housing market feels like a sinking ship. Even when apartments in once desirable suburbs, old, cramped, and worn out, are being offloaded for less than 1 million yuan, with some desperate owners accepting under 200,000 yuan just to escape the debt trap. Ironically, those who once envied homeowners are now the lucky ones. People who didn't buy, who were once mocked for missing their chance, have turned out to be the real winners. Meanwhile, those who spent years saving, borrowing, and sacrificing everything for a home now find themselves crushed under loans. One owner confessed bitterly, "I took out a 1 million yuan mortgage. I've been paying for years, and I still owe 900,000 yuan. But now my house is worth only 950,000 yuan. I worked half my life, and all I bought was a pile of debt." Fewer than 1,000 secondhand homes were sold across all of Shanghai. That's fewer than 100 homes per day in a city of over 24 million people. For a city once obsessed with property ownership, this is the sound of silence, the death of confidence. No one dares to predict how far prices will fall, but everyone quietly fears that this is only the beginning. Another homeowner shared his own nightmare. His family bought their apartment in 2014, paying around 9,700 yuan per square meter, and spent over 1.8 million yuan in total, counting taxes, renovation, and fees. At first, they believed it was the best decision of their lives. Then came the collapse. Prices slid from 2.68 million yuan the previous year to 2.3 million, and by March this year, only 1.9 million yuan. In less than 2 years, their investment lost over 700,000 yuan. This is the brutal reality of China's housing market today, a reflection of an era where dreams and debt collided.
China's rise was a promise of global glory, roads to prosperity, partnerships forged in steel, citizens carrying the red flag to every corner of the world. But now, that dream is fracturing. In Pakistan, the Karakoram Highway, once a symbol of iron brotherhood, becomes a battlefield as traders block Chinese trucks, accusing Beijing of drowning their markets. Across Africa, Chinatowns burn, Antananarivo's red lanterns reduced to ash, Angola's shops looted, as locals reject CCP-backed projects. From Singapore to Tokyo, Chinese tourists ignite fury with arrogance, scams, and cultural mockery, tarnishing a nation's image one viral clip at a time. Welcome to China Undercover, where we shred the propaganda to expose a superpower stumbling, alliances cracking, investments torched, and trust evaporating under the weight of debt, control, and hubris. This isn't just news, it's a warning, roaring from Pakistan's mountains to Africa's streets and Asia's subways, hitting like a storm that Beijing can't silence. Stay with us as we dive into the wreckage of China's global ambition, where loyalty turns to betrayal and prestige burns to ash. The Karakoram Highway, carved through Pakistan's northern mountains in the 1970s, was a monument to China-Pakistan Iron Brotherhood, a 1,300-kilometer lifeline linking Xinjiang's deserts to Gilgit-Baltistan's valleys, built with the blood and sweat of both nations' engineers. When Beijing launched the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, in 2013, this road became its spine, promising $62 billion in ports, highways, power plants, and special economic zones from Gwadar to Kashgar. Pakistani leaders hailed it as a new Silk Road, a path to prosperity. But in September 2025, that road turned into a war zone. Dozens of traders blocked Chinese trucks heading to Hunza Pass, accusing Beijing of flooding markets with cheap goods, destroying local livelihoods. "They sell everything we used to make," a Gilgit merchant seethes, his shop empty as Chinese textiles undercut his prices. When police intervened, chaos erupted, stones flew, tear gas choked the air, and 2 Chinese workers, waving CCP flags, were caught in the melee, pleading for protection as Pakistani officers pushed them back. A viral video of the clash spread across Pakistan, shattering the myth of unbreakable friendship. The unrest wasn't sudden. CPEC's promises, Gwadar as a new Dubai, jobs for millions, lie in dust. Gwadar's streets remain unpaved, its fishermen displaced by Chinese trawlers sweeping the coast. "They took our fish, our jobs," a fisherman spits, his boat idle. By 2024, Pakistan's debt to China soared past $25 billion, with interest rates up to 5%, double IMF terms, making repayment a chokehold. Projects stalled. Sukur's power plant sits half-built. Thar's coal mines slowed by corruption. Economists in Islamabad warn of a debt trap. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, notes 60% of CPEC funds repay Chinese loans, not build local wealth. "It's a one-way deal," a Karachi analyst says. "Roads for Beijing, bills for us." In Balochistan, the Gwadar rights movement swelled, with thousands blocking port roads chanting, "Give us our rights, not your loans." Police fired on protesters, wounding 6, fueling outrage. Banners praising China's gifts were torn down, replaced by demands to expel Chinese trawlers. Further north, Gilgit-Baltistan traders echo the anger. "They built roads for their trucks, not us," a driver says, pointing to convoys carrying Chinese goods tax-free while local merchants face 20% duties. By late 2025, hashtags like #CPECTrap and #ChuckGwadar trended, with videos of Chinese workers under police protection fueling perceptions of Beijing as an occupier. Pakistan's press, once silent, now questions CPEC's cost. "We were sold a dream," a Dawn op-ed reads, "but woke to debt." Beijing's response? Muted. State media called it temporary friction, but silence speaks louder. The $2 trillion Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, meant to cement China's global influence, is cracking in its flagship ally. Debt diplomacy with local flavor, an Islamabad economist calls it, noting China's control over ports, mines, and energy grids. As Washington offers Pakistan energy and mineral deals, the U.S. senses opportunity in the cracks, stepping into a space China once dominated. "We're not replacing China," a U.S. official says, "but Pakistan deserves a choice." The Iron Brotherhood, forged in steel, is rusting under debt and distrust. Across the ocean, Africa tells a parallel story of betrayal. In Antananarivo, Madagascar, the night sky glowed red on September 25, 2025, not from celebration, but from fire. A newly built Chinatown, a symbol of China-Africa friendship, was reduced to rubble, shelves looted, walls blackened, red lanterns buried in ash. "Why always Chinese people?" a shopkeeper asked, standing amid ruins. The answer lies in a continent stretched thin by inequality, where Beijing's BRI projects promised prosperity but delivered debt. In Angola, July 2025 saw fuel subsidy cuts spark riots, 22 dead, 197 injured, 1,200 arrested, Reuters. Luanda's Kalama II district turned into a battleground, with Chinese shops hit hardest. They're easy targets, a protester said, torching a warehouse. Across Mozambique, Niger, and South Africa, Chinese stores and factories faced looting, signaling a continent-wide backlash against Beijing's presence. Madagascar's unrest followed years of power outages, inflation, and water shortages. When protests erupted, crowds targeted a Chinese-owned mall, a BRI centerpiece. They built malls but were still poor, a looter told local radio, grabbing food he couldn't afford. By dawn, dozens of stores were destroyed. Losses in the millions, AGC News. Chinese nationals hid in warehouses, abandoned by local authorities. In Angola, taxi drivers protesting diesel price hikes, up 33%, attacked public buildings and Chinese electronics shops. Videos showed crowds smashing storefronts, hauling away TVs. The poor see no progress, an Angolan MP admitted. They see foreign projects, not futures. The Center for Naval Analyses, CNA, notes that BRI projects funded by Chinese state banks and managed by CCP-linked firms import Chinese labor and send profits home, leaving locals jobless. It's not development, it's displacement, a Nairobi analyst says. The CCP's BRI, launched in 2013, was a political tool, aligning trade with Beijing's global strategy. But its top-down control, state banks, CCP oversight, creates fragility. Every Chinese shop represents Beijing, a CSIS report states. When trust in local governments collapses, symbols of foreign power burn next. In Zambia and Kenya, new leaders reevaluate Chinese loans, wary of $140 billion in African debt to China. Brookings. Social media amplifies the anger. Madagascar's users questioned why Chinatowns get better electricity than locals. Angola's unions decried Chinese dominance in construction. Beijing's promises ring hollow, Foreign Policy wrote. Inside China, netizens voice disillusionment. If an actor's kidnapped, the government acts, one post read. But workers burned out? Silence. The CCP's domestic control, censoring dissent, prioritizing elites, fails abroad, where open societies reject one-sided deals. In Asia, China's image collapses not in flames, but in viral clips. On a Singapore MRT train in 2025, a Chinese man sips water under a no drinking sign, sparking outrage. It's not the water, it's the arrogance, a Singaporean fumes. The video spread to Malaysia and Japan, where Chinese tourists' scandals, robbery, fraud, cultural mockery fuel resentment. In Singapore, police arrested 10 Chinese nationals for stealing $3.8 million from luxury homes, targeting affluent areas, Channel News Asia. In Malaysia, a Chinese couple's fake bomb threat at Kuala Lumpur airport caused chaos, prompting visa policy reviews. Chinese vloggers mocked Malaysia's blue rice as dirty, ignoring its herbal origins, while in Japan, tourists caught cicadas in parks, reused toothpicks, and used fake Taiwanese licenses to scam permits. They act like money excuses everything, a Kuala Lumpur student says. These incidents paint a pattern: wealth without civility. In Singapore, Malaysia, and Japan, social media floods with complaints, line cutting, spitting, hoarding samples. The Star's headline, "Why Can't They Behave?" drew thousands of comments. Local Chinese communities feel the fallout. We've built trust for decades, a Singaporean of Chinese descent told Lian He Zhaobao. One video undoes it. In Malaysia, Penang locals call mainland Chinese loud, rude, dishonest, widening divides. Japan's media labels it cultural immaturity, with headlines like, rich but not civilized. The CCP's domestic system, prioritizing obedience over ethics, nationalism over humility, breeds this behavior. If you're not caught, you're not wrong, a Chinese expat explains, citing a mindset clashing with Asia's rule of law cultures. Propaganda fuels defensive pride, framing criticism as a Western plot, leaving tourists unprepared for accountability. Even Chinese netizens, despite censorship, express shame. "We build rockets but can't queue," one wrote. The CCP's soft power, $10 billion yearly on diplomacy, yields embarrassment. Singapore tightens visa rules, Japan revises store policies, and Malaysia rethinks tourist exemptions. China exports goods and arrogance, a Singapore scholar told the Straits Times. The world's sending it back. Pakistan's blocked highways, Africa's burning Chinatowns, Asia's viral scandals, China's global dream is crumbling. In Gwadar, fishermen curse loans that stole their sea. In Antananarivo, looters torch symbols of false promises. In Singapore, a water sip sparks cultural fatigue. It's not progress, it's predation, says analyst Dr. Batko Wei Jian. With $2 trillion in BRI loans, 180 million Chinese workers abroad, and $25 billion owed by Pakistan alone, Beijing's empire faces rebellion. The fix? Transparent trade, ethical education, systems that value trust over control. But the CCP's grip, censoring dissent, shielding elites, chokes reform. Is this China's fall or a global warning? Drop your thoughts, smash that like button, and subscribe to China Undercover for unfiltered truth. Stay sharp. Once, China's cities pulsed with life. Skyscrapers piercing the heavens, streets teeming with workers, and subways packed to the brim. Today, a chilling silence has descended. In Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, the neon lights flicker over deserted sidewalks. Restaurants sit shuttered, their tables gathering dust. Shopping malls, once bustling with shoppers, now stand as hollow monuments to a fading era. This is not the aftermath of a pandemic. It is the collapse of a nation's economic heartbeat, orchestrated by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. While the regime boasts of 5% GDP growth, the reality is a landscape of ghost cities, abandoned dreams, and millions of people plunged into hunger and despair. Behind the facade of progress lies a stark truth. The CCP's reckless policies have left China's urban centers as empty shells and its people in unimaginable suffering. How did the world's second-largest economy come to this? The dying pulse of urban China. Cities starved of life. A silent exodus. People stop moving. The lifeblood of any city is its people. The workers commuting to factories, the shoppers filling stores, the families dining out. In China, that lifeblood is drying up. According to the Chinese Ministry of Transport, urban passenger trips plummeted by 27% in the first 7 months of 2025 compared to the previous year. In Shanghai, subway ridership has dropped by 35%. In Guangzhou, it's a staggering 41%. Even Shenzhen, once a shining symbol of China's economic miracle, is faltering. Factories have shuttered, jobs have vanished, and an estimated 18 million people have stopped spending. A shop owner in Shenzhen laments, "Business is dead, customers are gone. It's like the city has given up." This isn't just a slowdown, it's a collapse. Buses and trams, once packed, now carry a fraction of their former passengers, with ridership down 8.1% in July alone. Taxi trips have fallen by 6.7%, and even new subway lines can't mask the truth. Passenger density is shrinking relentlessly. But what happens when the people stop moving? The answer lies in the stories of those left behind, struggling to survive in cities that no longer need them. The human toll is devastating. Workers who once crowded morning buses now sit idle, unable to afford food or rent. In smaller cities, public transport routes have been canceled, fleets mothballed, and stations abandoned. A taxi driver in Shang'an New area shares a heartbreaking reality. "I drive through empty streets at night, hoping for a single fare. Most nights, I go home with nothing." Families who dreamed of urban prosperity are now trapped in poverty, their savings drained, their hopes crushed. The CCP's vision of urban glory has left millions stranded, their lives reduced to a daily struggle for survival. Ghost cities, billions wasted, lives destroyed, monuments to misery, the ruins of ambition. Across China, the landscape is littered with the relics of the CCP's overzealous dreams, ghost cities, and abandoned projects that stand as testaments to failure. In Yangzheng, Fujian, the Guaya New World Villa community saw tens of billions of yuan poured into over 1,000 villas, now left to rot under overgrown weeds. From above, the tightly packed villas cover entire mountain slopes, their finished exteriors mocking the promise of luxury. Yet no one lives here. The roads are pristine, the landscaping meticulous, but the silence is deafening. Netizens lament, why not give these homes to the poor instead of letting them decay? In Yuyao, Zhejiang, the Mushan Lake Villa development was meant to be a serene escape for China's elite. Instead, it's a desolate wasteland, its million-yuan homes choked by vegetation, avoided even by the homeless. These are not just empty buildings, they are symbols of broken promises, where the dreams of ordinary people were sacrificed for the CCP's vanity. The scale of waste is staggering. Shang'an New Area, championed by Xi Jinping as a millennium plan to ease Beijing's overpopulation, consumed 830 billion yuan to build 4,860 buildings and 804 kilometers of roads. Yet, 8 years later, it houses only 1.3 million people, far below the planned 5 million. Videos from the National Day holiday show towering skyscrapers with no lights, streets with no pedestrians, and a high-speed rail station, touted as Asia's largest, nearly empty. A netizen's video captures the desolation. Look at Shanghai. The shops are all for rent. The owners who bought these properties must be heartbroken. These projects, meant to showcase China's might, have instead become graveyards of ambition, leaving behind a trail of financial ruin and human suffering. The human cost: hunger, homelessness, and despair. A nation starved, the plight of the people. Beyond the concrete wastelands, the true tragedy lies in the suffering of China's people. The CCP's obsession with infrastructure has left millions in poverty, their lives shattered by policies that prioritize steal over sustenance. Farmers whose lands were seized at rock-bottom prices to make way for these grandiose projects received little to no compensation. Stripped of their livelihoods, they now face hunger and homelessness. In Fujian, families who once tended fields near the Guaya New World villas are left with nothing, unable to afford basic necessities like food or medicine. A farmer's words echo the despair. They took our land, promised us prosperity, and left us to starve. But the pain doesn't end with the farmers. In the cities, the working class bears the brunt of an economy collapsing under the CCP's mismanagement. In Shenzhen, the closure of factories has left thousands of workers jobless. Once the backbone of China's manufacturing boom, these laborers now struggle to buy food for their families. A laid-off worker shares, "I used to work 12-hour shifts to feed my children. Now I can't even afford rice." The infamous 996 work culture, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, promised prosperity, but delivered exhaustion and despair. In Chang'an, a shop owner who invested his life savings in a commercial property now faces ruin. "I thought this was my chance to build a future. Now, my shop is empty and my family is hungry." Across China, 139 of 694 cities, 20% of the nation's urban centers, are officially shrinking as people flee to rural areas in search of survival. But even there, poverty awaits. The urban dream has become a nightmare, with millions trapped in a cycle of hunger and hopelessness. The financial abyss, a debt-fueled disaster. Billions borrowed, nothing gained. The CCP's reckless spending has plunged China into a financial quagmire. By August 2023, local government debt reached a staggering 94 trillion yuan, with 6 trillion tied to high-speed rail and 10 trillion squandered on ghost cities. Over 20,000 unfinished projects nationwide have wasted 20 trillion yuan, funds that could have fed and housed millions. The Jiangxi Expressway, a 5.8 billion yuan project meant to connect Hunan and Guizhou, now lies abandoned, its lonely bridge piers standing like tombstones in the mountains. The Chang'an high-speed railway station, costing 475,000 square meters of construction, operates with just 20 pairs of trains daily, its vast halls echoing with emptiness. A retired railway worker from Huyang sums it up. Trains used to serve the people. Now they're just for political show, while ordinary folks can't even afford a ticket. But who pays for this extravagance? The answer is clear. The Chinese people, whose savings and futures have been plundered by the CCP's greed. The human cost of this debt is crushing. Money from state banks, built on the savings of ordinary citizens, has been funneled into these failed projects. Families who entrusted their earnings to the system now find themselves destitute, their sacrifices funding empty skyscrapers and rusted railways. The CCP's post-2008 stimulus plan, injecting 4 trillion yuan into infrastructure, drove investment to 40% of GDP, masking economic weaknesses but burdening the nation with unpayable debts. Each kilometer of high-speed rail adds 120 million yuan in liabilities, yet passenger numbers are too low to sustain operations. The result? Suspended projects, closed stations, and a nation drowning in debt, with its people left to bear the consequences. The CCP's betrayal, corruption, and mismanagement. A system built on greed. At the heart of China's collapse lies the CCP's systemic failures, corruption, mismanagement, and a callous disregard for its people. The regime's infrastructure frenzy was not about progress, but about enriching officials and their cronies. Local governments, eager to boost GDP and line their pockets, poured billions into projects with no demand. The Guiyang Hunda cultural tourist town in Hubei, costing 120 billion yuan, was meant to be a vibrant leisure hub but remains unfinished. Its steel reinforcements rusted and overtaken by weeds. The Super Data Castle in Fujian, a 26 billion yuan project mimicking Apple's headquarters, halted in 2022, leaving only a skeletal frame. These projects were driven by officials seeking performance metrics and personal gain, not public welfare. Yet, the true crime is not just the waste. It's the betrayal of a nation's trust, as the CCP sacrifices its people for the illusion of grandeur. The CCP's economic model, prioritizing concrete over citizens, has left household income at just 40% of GDP, down from over 50% in the early reform era. While skyscrapers multiplied, ordinary people were treated as tools of production, not beneficiaries of prosperity. The 996 culture exhausted workers, leaving them underpaid and overworked with no safety net. Farmers lost their land, workers lost their jobs, and families lost their futures, all to fuel the CCP's propaganda of growth. The regime's obsession with infrastructure has not only bankrupted the economy, but also broken the spirit of its people, leaving them to scavenge for survival in the shadows of empty cities. A nation in mourning, China's ghost cities, silent, weed-choked relics of the CCP's ambition, stand as haunting symbols of a nation betrayed. From the abandoned villas of Guaya New World to the desolate streets of Chang'an, these concrete wastelands tell a story of waste, corruption, and suffering. The CCP's boasts of economic miracles ring hollow against the cries of its people. Farmers stripped of their land, workers left jobless, and families struggling to afford a single meal. The empty subways of Shanghai, the shuttered shops of Shenzhen, and the deserted stations of Chang'an are not just signs of economic collapse. They are monuments to the CCP's failure to value human lives. As millions face hunger, Homelessness and despair. The world's second-largest economy stands exposed as a hollow shell, its grandeur built on the broken backs of its people. This is not progress. This is a nation in mourning, betrayed by a regime that chose steel over souls.